I'm
Well,
so
thank
excited
you.
to have you
Well, me
on.
too. Thank you.
I met John at Kekino Massage Academy here in Plano, Texas. The academy is, gosh, not even a mile, maybe 2 miles away from my store and training center. And I'm so excited to be partnering with Kekino and John in our efforts to make good massage therapists and and sell as much as we can to massage therapists at my store and get them all the knowledge and training that they need to go out and be successful massage therapists. John, can you tell us a little bit about when you took over Kikino and kind of some of the changes you've made?
Sure. I bought Kekino March 12th was 5 years. So going on 5.5 years ago. And then it took us about over a year to buy it. It's been a project going on for about 6.5 years. First of all, we bought Kekino and Kekino was already, and one of the reasons we were interested in it is at the core, it was really amazing. There was a lot of loyalty here. They were already very rigorous about education. And so some of the things that were important to us, so there was already there. So that was great. And since then, what we've tried to do was to try to figure out how to focus the offer. That is a massage clinic and a massage school, trying to figure out some way to make it a niche rather than all things to all people. And that's taken some time. The first year, we kind of just gave up on that project. And then eventually, as we continue to work and dial it in and get more and more committed to producing students that were advanced, we were able to figure it out. We were able to figure out what's most unique about us is how our school and our clinic interact with each other. And so that's a big change we made here. The other thing we changed in regards to our clinic is we have different clinic levels here. So we have massage therapists, student massages are $40, but our master level clinic starts at 200. And so one of the things I had always said here is that the more advanced we get, the more expensive we should be, and that doesn't hurt the market. That actually helps the market. There's a lot of massage therapists that might even find themselves kind of offended by our prices at times. And what they'll find is that we have a large organization seeing more people than most because we have so many different levels of therapists. And if we don't move an advanced therapist really far up the line, then it leaves them competing with therapists at a lower price, which stops the market. So we've made that change. We've made a lot of physical changes here. This is a 6,500 square foot building. I always said I liked small houses. I don't want to live in a big house. And then we bought this place at 6,500 square feet and 6 bathrooms. And
Wow.
so it's on nearly an acre of land. So it's been quite an undertaking to manage all of that. So, it's just a lot. So we made a lot of physical changes. If you look at before photos and now it's come a long way. Everything from most everything inside to windows to it's something we are aware of how important aesthetics is. We're trying as best we can to kind of catch up to taking care of this space. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot. I could kind of go on forever on changes made.
Well, I have to
But
tell you, I'm really impressed with Kikino in a lot of ways. I think that you've really developed that niche that you were just talking about that was really difficult to do. You are definitely the prenatal massage king. you know, your place is definitely the place for people to learn anything about
Mhm.
doing massage, especially if they're focused on prenatal massage. And I think you've done a phenomenal job of that. I'm
Well,
I'm
thank you.
impressed with the way the school is set up as well. I've been teaching for John for a couple months now, uh,
Hmm.
business marketing, and it's been so much fun. It's been such a pleasure to go over to Kikino and be involved with the energy of the students. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just as a seasoned massage therapist, you go through your daily life and you're booked, and life is pretty good, but you slowly start to mentally kind of feel like a massage machine. you know, that you're going through the daily life and the grind. And it's really just awesome to be around young, enthusiastic massage therapists.
Hmm.
They're presenting their like, oh, look at what the future holds for me. And
Hmm.
when I saw their presentations, I was like, wow, I have the stuff that I was once them. I was once
Hmm.
going, I want all of this. And now I
Hmm.
have it. And to be able to think about that as really a big source of gratitude for
Hmm.
me, I'm appreciative of what I have versus I'm a massage machine and I'm just on
Right.
grind, right?
Right.
Just taking a step back and going, look what I've done is kind of a cool thing to do. And to be around the students is just amazing.
Oh my gosh,
Exciting.
we've had multiple students stop us to tell us how much they loved you teaching here.
Aw.
And so, we're always looking for, we have this thing we say, a friend of mine said that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. One of the, you've been a hell yes so far. So thank you. Thank you
All
so much.
right. I love it. I love it. Well, you've got quite a rich history in massage. You've done massage for
Yeah.
decades. What got you into massage, first of all?
I had always worked construction related jobs as a kid. And so I got good at making money, but I did not love that profession. And one day, a girlfriend of mine, a high school girlfriend that she babysitted for, owned a physical therapy facility in Plano. And he said he wanted me to come work for him. I think because I was in really good shape at the time, and he wanted somebody to help him move all of his furniture and stuff. So, anyways, they opened a new facility at Parker and Independence, and they opened that in 1988. And so in 19, I'm gonna have to back up. I was just leaving high school, so 1986. So in 1986, I helped them open it, and I moved a lot of stuff in. I was like their mover. Became a physical therapy assistant. I was making 217 an hour, I think is what I made back then. It was horrible money for me, and yet I felt that I got that feeling that I'd never had of like doing something that was meaningful and that kind of made me want to go to work. And so that's where it kind of started. He would have me work. They weren't licensing massage therapists yet, I think, in Texas, or they were really close to beginning that. And so he would have me work on people back then. And so, anyways, at a later date, I saw an advertisement for massage therapy, and I was off in college. I was not happy with where I was going, and I saw the ad, and I called him and talked to him about it. And he said that he would contract me if I got licensed, and I did. And so, January 13th of 1992, after being licensed just a few months, I started there at Plano Sports Rehab Center. And I spent 6 years there to the day. 6 years later, I left there into a private practice. But so that's kind of how it started. What was a blessing with that arrangement is that I saw a lot of patients. I had days where I would see 25-minute of patients. I had days I saw 28 in one day.
Wow.
I think a lot of times in our profession, one of the things I'm seeing is that the practitioners are overstudied and underpracticed. I was probably understudied and overpracticed, but I saw that it did allow, like if I took a Barnes myofascial course in 1992, 10 days later I knew how to do every technique I'd learned because I'd practiced it like 150 times in a week. So, there's a lot of value to that. But I went into that very busy practice and again spent 6 years there. One of the things that happened in that practice is I started seeing chronic pain patients. And so it was my first window into that this profession was actually going to keep me not bored. The concern I had, and it always had, is just getting bored. And this profession has not left me bored ever. And so that was kind of my first place where I realized I was good with chronic pain. Nobody liked to work with chronic pain. So they'd send them all to me. Yeah, that's where it all started.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. You said you purchased Kekino about 5 years ago, which was right
Hmm.
before the pandemic. Um,
Right.
what made you want to buy a massage school?
A business partner and I at the time had opened a company called the C-Section Recovery Center. She's a dear friend of mine, incredible business partner, incredible therapist. Her name's Lauren Robertson. She and I opened a company called the C-Section Recovery Center. The company was open to help women that had had a surgical birth recover more quickly. And then I'll talk about it maybe later, but it quickly became something far more involved than that. But we were having a conversation with a mentor of ours about how to scale that company. And what we were looking at was the potential of us creating some sort of chain or something that would go nationwide. And we looked at all sorts of things. And one of the things we realized in this conversation with this mentor was that we didn't have enough qualified therapists. The therapist, because of the work we were doing, was no one else had come up with this work focused specifically in this area. That it wasn't like we had a bank of therapists waiting that were semi-qualified. They all needed a lot of training. And so we realized where the deficiency was in keeping us from being able to scale that company was actually in the condition of life education. And so I think we pretty much collectively had this aha moment of why don't we buy Kekino? I think one of us, there's multiple people on the call that were involved in the company, and one of them said, it's not for sale. And I'm like, nah, they'll sell it to us, surely. And luckily, we contacted the owners of this company, and they had, in fact, thought of selling it, and we're kind of done. They'd done an amazing job here, but they were kind of done. They'd kind of moved. They were in another state. They weren't even running it from here. That's kind of how that happened.
So, John, do you have any ideas of what makes a successful massage therapist? You've seen a lot of people go to school.
I got a lot of ideas about that. I think, first of all, I don't have to look at other therapists to figure out what makes a successful therapist. I can look to my own life and my own career. I'm nearly 32 years in doing this, and I've had a lot of success, but all of my success has been preceded by some sort of significant personal breakdown. So one of the things I would suggest is that you can find successful therapists when they are kind of monetizing their breakdowns, meaning they're taking their breakdowns and somehow turning them into some sort of breakthrough, some sort of personal growth opportunity. They're somehow translating it into how body work affects people. Or a lot of times I would find that body work was involved in my own breakthrough. And so that's one thing. One of the things I notice is that if a body worker massage therapist is focused somehow, that they're far more likely to be successful. And I don't mean just financially, but also just they seem to be more satisfied. One of the things that I also see is therapists that don't want to focus tend to have to compete on price. And so they end up kind of having to deal with and I'm not anti-massage envy at all, actually, but like they end up having to compete with the massage envy. That would be kind of like having to compete with Walmart, if you will. The massage therapist that gets in our profession and begins to look for the calling, the very, very specific calling. A lot of them have it before they even get here. They've already been called specifically. Let's say it's trauma, or let's say they want to work with athletes or whatever. They've already got some sort of specific calling. But if they haven't had it by the time they get here, when they get here, if they'll start keeping an eye out for it, it'll surface over time. And if they'll follow that and then find a niche in that, then they're more likely to be successful. And it could, a lot of times in our profession, it's thought that the therapist has to be self-employed to be successful. And I'm seeing less and less of that. We're seeing more and more people build teams, have employees that they treat really well, that they pay really well. And so there's a lot of different avenues for being successful. Even if I go into an organization and have a specialized offer within that organization, I'm more likely to be successful.
So what I'm hearing you say is that if a massage therapist or I guess a person is called to become a massage therapist,
sure,
it's generally from a very deep personal, instinct or passion, something that's happened to them personally or within their
right.
And I found that to be true as well with most of the people that I interview. I actually talk about that. And almost everybody that I've interviewed has talked about some sort of personal connection and how they got into business and how their heart and passion and soul is in. It's an emotional profession to be in.
It's a very emotional profession. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to be able to break down your own mental barriers before you can help others.
Yes.
Would you find that to be true?
I absolutely find that to be true. I find that if I haven't done my work myself, then people will feel pressure from me. rather than motivation from me. And so if I've done my own work, even if I'm not telling them what I've done, if I've just done my own work and I carry that kind of resonance, that kind of energy, they feel motivated by working with me. And it's not just me. I mean, we have 14 therapists that live their lives that way here. So, any of the therapists here, I know you work that way as well. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Where do you see our profession or our industry going in the future?
That's a good question. I think there's some problems to watch out for. One of the reasons, and I don't want you to tell anybody this, okay? One of the reasons why people come in this profession is there's a lot of freedom in this profession. We have physical therapists that come get a massage license so they can practice with freedom. And I do think that's ridiculous that a physical therapist would have to have our license to actually be able to practice freely, but that's the reality of it. But my concern is that there will be a tendency or a need, or it'll become popular to think that we need to be regulated more. So that's one of the concerns I have about where we're headed. Maybe it won't happen that way. We tend to get overlooked for some reason. And I happen to be one of those people that's kind of like, let's leave it that way a little bit. The other, I don't think this is a problem really. It's just something worth, I've always thought many years ago, I said, one of the problems we're going to have to deal with is that the professions that have more authority than us are going to start claiming they do what we do. And man, you see it a lot these days. I'm thinking of an institute in LA that's talking a lot about body work right now. And they're nothing but one of them's a Harvard doctor. And I'm excited about that. But to the people out there, it looks like it's new. And he's talking about things we've been doing for years. Years and years and years and years and years. He's talking, it's not new. It's not new at all. And however, the market could look at it like it's new and like it's his idea. And I think it's important that our profession develop ways to not only come up with things, but also to go public with them. So there's got to be some way that we communicate those things that we're developing as we work. I'm mainly telling you concerns. Where do I see our profession going? I think our profession is going to become more and more advanced. I think there's a time period coming where a person would have been asked, who's your primary physician? And I think now they're going to hear, who's your primary body worker? And I'll go ahead and say it. I think it's in most cases more valuable. I think that a person that gets regular body work probably gets things attended to at a different level. It doesn't mean that in emergency medicine or some sort of acute medicine that people shouldn't see a doctor. I'm not saying that at all. But as a day-to-day way to regulate and monitor and emphasize a lot of longevity and vitality, body work is a better option. A lot better.
It's more like the idea that they're focusing on preventative health care rather than putting out the fires. They're preventing.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you think like as you and I go to work on someone, half of what we catch they know about, and the other half they didn't even know about. They didn't even know something was smoldering over here, and we get to catch those things and hopefully clear them.
Half is generous.
Yeah, that's true.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, do you believe that our profession is moving into a more niche industry? I mean, we talk about niche a lot in the marketing class. I believe that to be true. What do you think?
I think we're going to have to do some work to stake claim to a niche. I think that the other professions, everything from doctors, osteopaths, physical therapists, occupational therapists, are all going to step into those same areas because let's face it, all of us, we want to do the right thing, but we're also following money. And the fact is that the public is about to become saturated with a new belief. And the new belief is that body work is essential, and it's not only essential physically, but it's essential mentally. And when that happens, we're not going to be the only ones in that. And so I think it's important for us to have a voice somewhere, and maybe it's podcast. But I think it's important for us to have a voice somewhere to begin to craft a niche. And for me, it would be like how trauma is held in the body, or it would be like, how is the autonomic nervous system deactivated, or something like that? Or is there an incomplete biological process that needs to be completed? It would be one of those. It would be some area like that that we would need to stake claim over and begin to train therapists to do those things. And we're doing that here. So,
well, and I've seen a lot more people that are cross trained in things
yeah.
like massage and yoga, or
Mm-hmm.
massage and counseling,
Mm-hmm.
or counseling and yoga, or,
Right.
kinds of things, PT and massage,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about that. Chiropractic, we've seen a lot of chiropractors become massage therapists and vice versa. I feel like that's kind of where we're headed, where we're going to have these cross-trained people that have their lanes. And I feel like that's where success will, take us down
I
that path.
think any time that our practice can be mirror or reflective of reality, it's going to do well. Like, and so as we cross over these different disciplines, I mean, the human body's not divided. So why should the disciplines be divided? And so one of the things it causes when these disciplines are divided in Western medicine is it causes a breakdown in health. And it's funny, you look at emergency medicine in America, and it's not divided at all. It's not chasing symptoms. It's really good stuff. But when we get into these other medicines, they're all divided. And the thing is, for the body worker in these that have melded different disciplines, I think it's working well, because I think it's how the body actually works.
I completely agree with you on something you said earlier too. And I feel the same way, which is I get bored easily.
Mhm.
And I'm really happy to be involved with this profession that I can grow with, and it can grow with me. And I can take it as far as I want to.
Mhm.
And I've still got momentum, and I've been in this 17 years. I
Mhm.
mean, I know you've got a few years on me, and you've still got momentum. And I like seeing that. I really, I want to kind of ride in that wake of people that are, really defining the profession for us. And I appreciate I appreciate you trendsetters doing that for us, because we're all kind of learning as we go, and we
Right.
have to navigate and adapt to our times. I mean, look what we went through with the pandemic.
Right.
Now, how did Kekino fare during the pandemic? How did you keep it afloat?
I always say we put it in an induced coma. Being in the leadership here, that was one of those moments in my life where I made some good guesses on how to save this company from any kind of demise related to it. Because, we stopped the function of the company for a while, and yet a lot of the bills and things didn't stop. So we're still here, and we're doing really well. But there was a time period though that was really challenging. Yeah, it was really, we sat down with all the people that are important to us around bookkeeping and CPA, and we just had the hard conversation of what do we need to do to make this thing like insanely lean. And so we began doing that, and we're not as lean as we were then, but it did change us. We're willing to accept the positive aspects of that time period, and that it cleaned us up a little bit. We definitely got more lean, and we a lot of times we'll go back to that and do a review of everything to see if we can't get things a little more lean so that we're safe, because we're probably going to experience something like that again. you know
Yeah, I mean,
I would imagine.
I, who knows what the future
Who
holds?
knows?
I mean, I think we all learned something about being more adaptable for sure. Um,
One of the things we noticed was that the constraint of COVID, if anything, it produced creativity.
mm,
And I'm
yeah.
always like, I wouldn't say I'm an optimist at all, but I'm always willing to kind of spend something and see what I can get out of it.
Mhm.
And what I would say I got out of COVID is I got to practice creativity. I like creativity. And I saw a lot of people across the world becoming more creative. I noticed that people that had never done art were doing art. I just noticed people being more creative. And it made me think about how constraint is actually where creativity is made. And that most of the world would say creativity comes from freedom. I'm like, that's not actually true. If you look at times that historically in wars and all sorts of things, people have been incredibly creative. And I think that's what we got out of that. And so we use those principles here, even in our teaching. We're not like intentionally stressing out our students or anything, but we provide a lot of constraint here. We only train 60 students a year here, but we try to constrain things pretty tight because we know that they'll be more creative if we do.
Well,
We
you,
got a lot of lessons out of it. So
yeah, I mean, you kind of have to, if you're running a massage school, you have to have, you know, a lot of discipline and, you know, the curriculum. And I love the way you've got your curriculum set up where, you know, you bring in an expert for
yeah,
each subject that you're teaching. And I've never seen any other massage school do that before. And kudos to you for doing that
thank
because
you. Thank you.
I think that's genius, to be honest.
It's funny. We took the business class is 11 4-hour classes plus one. So 45 hours. There's a bunch of stuff in there. I don't want to teach it. There's several reasons I don't want to. Sometimes it's things I don't care or I don't think it's actually that valuable, but we have to teach it because we want our students to pass the boards, those kinds of things. But the main reason is that I'm not the expert and I don't handle law for this company. I don't handle the legal services. I don't handle the CPA services, and I don't handle bookkeeping, and I don't handle the marketing, maybe a little bit, but not much. Mainly like strategic direction and vision. And so, why in the world would I teach those things? And so, when we started crafting this business class, and first of all, the challenge is just getting a business class that people like at all because it's hard. It's a lot of information of stuff that people just feels very daunting. And it really helped. It helped to bring you in as opposed to me standing up there talking to them. And so I handle the part of the classes. I teach 6 classes, and the other 5 are taught by experts in their field.
Nice.
And it is a mirror of how we run our own business. And so that's one of the things unique here in Kekino is we do that in a lot of different ways. So a student doesn't have to look very far to see how we do it. They may not sometimes have to look far to see a breakdown that we have. That's fine. It's just the way it goes, and they can learn from those things that we do well. And as we're learning from the breakdowns we have, they can also learn from those because it's right there. They can't miss it.
So you said you bring in 60 students a year, is that correct?
That's all we do. That may sound like a lot. That's not a lot. That's a small school. We don't take 61 students. We take 60 a year. We make a lot of promises to students, so we have to be careful about getting too many students. So because it would be hard to deliver on the promises that we've been making if we had more than that. That's one of the ways that we're focused in the market. That's one of the ways that we're a niche. Most schools aren't going to tell you that, oh, if it's 65 want to be here, would you turn away students? And yes, we would. We would just raise the bar. One of the things we've realized is the higher we raise the bar, the students start preparing themselves to come here. If they find out it's hard to come here or they prepare to come here. And I kind of like that because this education is fast. It's always more for the student than they anticipated, all of them. We've had chiropractors here go, yeah, that was a lot. So we need them to be ready, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love
yeah.
that. Keep raising the bar, man. I mean, I love that as somebody in our profession too. I mean, because as you mentioned about pricing, we all are affected by pricing. We're all affected when you as a school raise the bar. I think it just makes us all better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that I've done in my marketing is I've realized that I love to learn, and I take probably about 30 to 40 hours of continuing education a year, which is way more than what we need. For those listening, if you don't know, in Texas, we need 12 every 2 years. I just knock that thing out of the water because I usually go to a convention at least once a year and take
right.
30 hours of class.
Wow.
Yeah, I never have any problems with that, but
Yeah.
I just love to learn. And that's something I've used as a marketing tool is that When a client gets on my table, they're going to get 5 times as much knowledge as they would in a person with 17 years of experience that is just doing the minimum classes.
That
Or,
is so true.
yeah. So I think I'm all for raising the bar because there's always more to learn about the human body. And the
Yeah.
fact that, we really haven't even unleashed the mind body connection either, to be frank, as humans.
Yeah.
I mean, we only know what 2% of what our brain can do or something. It's
Right.
just,
Yeah.
and it's all one unit. It's one body that's working together. The
Right.
muscle not separate from the fascia tissue or the nervous
Mhm.
system or the bones. I mean, we all have to work together in this, bag of bones that we are living in. And
Right.
as long as we keep learning, I think we're just going to get better. I mean, one thing that I talk to your students about that I really enjoy telling them is when somebody gets on their table, I always say, and I recommend that they say this, something like this: I don't live in your body, you live in your body. And I want to be your massage therapist, and I want to be the best therapist I can be for you.
Hmm.
In order to do that, I need you to communicate with me as best you can what you're feeling when I'm doing this
Hmm.
massage or when I'm doing this, whatever
Hmm.
I'm doing for you. Because I think a lot of people, usually non-massage therapists, just it's almost like they don't even live in their bodies. They're not cognizant of what their own
Hmm.
human body is doing and
Hmm.
feeling. And we're kind of facilitators of that for people.
Exactly.
I mean, just
Hmm.
reminding people, hey, you have a body and this is what's happening
Hmm.
in it. And this is what I'm feeling. And how are you feeling when this happens?
Yeah, you're talking about like we really haven't even tapped into the mind body connection. Like there's that is an area that is anybody that holds any kind of expertise there would hold that as a specialized knowledge, meaning it's a knowledge that's kind of hard to get. It was very difficult to obtain. It took some time, and there's not very many people that have it. And the good thing is that specialized knowledge is always becoming general knowledge over time. And so I'm reassured that as we all begin to understand fully how deeply interwoven this human body is, that over time it's just going to become general knowledge. And it takes subtle things like, for years it was kind of cliche to say it's all connected. And then we realized here at the school that's actually inaccurate because it still implies that we are this body of parts that are all connected. And the fact is that we're not all connected because we don't really have any parts. And I love how you mentioned it earlier about bones and fascia. Like those aren't separate.
Right.
It's insane. It's insane that we've somehow bought that we have all these parts. And that may be that if we're careful with that out in the market, that may be our specialty as body workers. You asked about that earlier, like what's the niche? And that may be the niche. It may be that we may be the only profession that truly believes that it's all one thing and that it can only be separated for educational purposes. You can't separate it in any other way. Like we can separate it to talk about it, but it's not actually separate. You know
No,
what I mean?
it's not at all. It's not
That's
separate at all.
insane. Like how do we come up with that? It's
Right.
crazy.
You know, the more you learn, the better you'll be as a therapist for sure. So, what other pieces of advice would you give to people who may be out there as a massage therapist struggling right now, trying to make it? It's summer, it's hot, people are on vacation.
Right. Find a mentor. If you're not making it, find a mentor. That's just one thing. The other thing is that success in our industry and other areas, other industries even, is formulaic. If you are a customer intimate practice, meaning customer intimate means where you can read about that is a book called The Discipline of Market Leaders. There's 3 different disciplines that a person could have or a company could have. And the coaching in that book is that you should have one. You shouldn't have 3. You just have one, and one of them is customer intimacy. Customer intimacy is the company that has the best total solution for the breakdown that they're solving. Like if you look elsewhere in the market, no one else has a solution like they have. It's unique. It's dialed into the breakdown the customer has. And so success in our industry is formulaic. It has to be, in my opinion, customer intimate. I mean, I have to understand the breakdown the customer has really well. Number two, it has to be a focused offer. The third thing would be that anytime we communicate with the public, we would communicate via the what's called the predominant narrative in the market, meaning that our competition is not really other facilities or other therapists. Our competition is, what is the market saying? What are people saying? They might be asking, it could be anything like people asking questions like, do you take insurance? Or did you have to go to school for this? Or there's all sorts of things that people could be saying, and then we should address those things in the market. So the formula is customer intimacy, focused offer, and when we advertise specifically reflective of the narrative in the market. Like what narrative is the culture currently carrying about body work or about health that we can either agree with or we can disagree with in the market. And it could be that there's a new rave of doing something, because we always have those in the market, right? And we could challenge that. And so those are different ways. That's a good formula for success. I think another thing that I think is really important is that people are trying to do things alone. I've studied transactional philosophy for 8 or 9 years with a company out of California that kind of does a privatized kind of MBA kind of program, but specifically around transactional philosophy. And transactional philosophy would suggest that for a transaction of any kind to be successful, all of the parts, all the personalities, and all the people would have to be there. So if a person is experiencing a breakdown, that would then indicate that there's some sort of breakdown or deficiency in some part of that transaction. And for me, it's usually a person is missing, because each personality that a person carries looks at the world in a little different way. And in a company, you should probably have all of those represented. So a lot of times people that are struggling in the market, you'll find them kind of isolated. So I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
Oh, yeah, you did very well. I mean,
yeah.
I'm super excited in the fact that, since I started my store and training center, I found a lot of comparable people like me that are not competitive. We're collaborating.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like our industry really does a very good job of breeding those kinds of people that
sure.
we're not in competition with each other. I mean, like dentists and chiropractors, you'll find them on every corner in Plano, Texas. I mean,
right.
Next to Starbucks, there's a dentist, there's a chiropractor.
Right.
And, I'm just thankful that I'm not in those businesses. But at the same time, there's a massage therapist on almost every corner too.
Yeah.
But I'm booked until September.
Right.
What does that say about my business, right? My business, I mean, and some of the things that you were talking about is kind of a focus on what the market's telling us. What are the problems out there that we can solve, right? When I first opened my business, I focused on getting dentists in my door because they have disposable income. Usually they're usually a lot more, higher income.
Off on Fridays.
Yeah, they're off on Fridays. My books are full on Fridays because of
book
them.
your Fridays.
Yep. They hold their arms up, taking care of people all day long, and they need our help. And so I fostered this, dentist group, and I still have lots and lots of people I work on in the dental industry. And I've created a market around that because I saw a problem that needed to be fixed. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's, I think, what the future holds for massage. I think that was just something I went forward with because of a demographic. If we see a trend with, for instance, all of these retirement people are playing pickleball now, and maybe causes some sort of supination problem in their arm. Thing, I don't know. Maybe you're the pickleball expert in massage therapy.
Right. Now, what we would see regarding that, though, is we would see the medical profession or someone out there working on the arm only And this is where the predominant narrative could be challenged, because I can guarantee you that's what's going to happen. They're going to be like, you've got pickle elbow, you know, and we're going to be like, come on, it's connected to the rest of the body. And so the body workers over here, the massage therapist over here going, hey, I actually agree that you've got pickle elbow, but it's connected to the rest of the body that was also playing pickleball. And so our profession stands to really grow in a way like that, where they come in agreement, but what you're really missing here is that the pelvis is in a continuous repetitive pattern that's setting up the right elbow. And we can help with that. And so I think there needs to be more of that. I think more and more and more of that, just like what you're saying. So
Yeah,
I like it.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. And being able to train massage therapists like you do and finding the root of the problem is
You're
a
right.
skill that not a lot of schools have, to be frank,
Right.
and not a lot of therapists have. I mean, I've worked on several people who, I've had to explain what referred pain is to them.
Mhm.
They're very intelligent people,
Right.
people that are very highly educated, but referred pain is not a common term amongst non
Right.
body workers. Referred pain, or knowing that the root of the problem is somewhere else, is part of how we have to educate our clients
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's super rad that we have therapists and people like you that are, fostering new ways of really educating clients in this way. Cause I think that's important, for them to
Mhm.
go out and live in their bodies and be successful and happy in the skin that
Yeah.
they live in. They have to know what they're doing and the causes that it's producing, right? When you sit
Right.
at the desk all day, what problems that causes in your body, and being on the phone, looking down. I mean, how many people have computer
Right.
neck, iPhone neck, or whatever you call it? And there's gadgets coming out all over the place now about putting something in the back that gives you a little electrical shock to pull your shoulders back in place. I just feel like we're indisposable massage
Yeah.
therapy. And
I,
maybe saying that is wrong, but I just feel like we are the key to unlocking a lot of health problems for the future.
I agree. I think the key is actually, generally speaking, it's touch. And the reason I like to kind of back up and put it in that way instead of in a profession is because one of the things we want to do is we want to promote more touch across the board. Because if our culture were to hold the proper value for touch, this would be a completely different world. One of the things that has happened to our culture is it lost touch, and one of the places it lost it the most is in medicine,
Mhm.
where a person could receive a complex diagnosis without ever being touched.
Yeah.
No palpation skills, nothing. Or a person could that didn't need it could birth a baby without, I mean, surgically, like without it actually being needed. And those kinds of things have a profound effect on the body, as we know. And so I agree. I think we're in a indisposable industry. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, and I think as we move forward and, hopefully society will embrace more of the non-sexual touch. I think that's
Oh yeah,
important for us to go
yeah,
back to that, hugging people every day,
yes,
giving a handshake. I mean, I understand that there's a lot of faux pas around it right now in our society with Me Too, and I totally agree with those things. If you're
yeah.
not comfortable with being touched, you shouldn't be touched.
Well, the irony of it, though, is that the remedy for that discomfort is touch, and so it's ironic that the best way to respect those people sometimes is to give them that respect, if not touch. Yet the remedy is at some point it was going to have to be touch.
Yeah.
There's no other way to remedy it,
Well,
you
and
know?
I met a massage therapist whose specialty is working with people who are traumatized by touch, who've
Yeah.
had trauma in the past. And it's just amazing and incredible that these people exist and that
Right.
they're coming up with protocols and ways to like overcome these fears for people.
Yeah.
You know, she said that sometimes she'll go through a whole hour of service and the only thing that she does is touch the back of their hand.
Oh, wow.
And that was one step closer to being able to be touched.
And if, if you want to tell a story about what's so unique about our profession, that's a good story to tell.
It is.
That's amazing. What an incredible story. Because what
Well,
other holds that kind of reverence and that kind of patience? I mean, seriously, that's amazing. What a
it is
gift.
amazing. I'm just blown away by the fact that she's got the patience and the kindness to hold somebody like that for an
Yeah,
hour.
that's incredible.
Well, I think that's a good time to wrap up anyway. We've talked about a lot of great things, and I think our listeners have a lot to listen to and
Yeah,
think about and ponder. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day with you
me
because
too.
it's
Yeah,
just it's just a fun topic for me, and I am excited about our industry, and
I'm excited too.
I'm really, really happy
I
to.
want to I want to say thank you to you. When I heard you were opening a store, I don't know if you realized that I contacted you within seconds, literally. Like I did not wait. I didn't think about it. Like I contacted you because I think it's a really good sign for our industry that there's a store on the ground again. Those of us who've been around a while that can remember there being a store. I remember as a young therapist in the early 90s, I would go to that store. I would go there and I would just walk around. I could get my hands on things. And so I appreciate you doing that. Kekino is here for you. We're going to do everything we can to get students over there. They, I'm sure we're going to be looking at field trips and things like that because why not? That sounds fun, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very thankful for our partnership. And I love the
Yes.
fact that, I opened a retail store right after a pandemic when big box retail stores are dying.
Yeah.
And my mentors are cheering me on, like, we're in the middle of a boom. And I'm like, you know, we're in an industry that people want to come in and smell and feel and
Yeah.
touch and see. And, you know, I think that's important. And I want to go back to that. And
I agree.
I'm banking on it. I put all my chips on that. So
I'm
I
good.
really hope that that's true.
Yeah. Well, I do too.
Well, thank you, John. I'll let you get back to
Oh
your
my God.
day
Thank
today. I
you.
appreciate your time so much and all that you're doing at Kekino. So thank you.
I appreciate you too.
Take care.